Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, wherever you are tuning in from today. Hi, my name is Annika, and I will be your host today. I'm joined with Rich Armstrong from Tap Tap Kaboom. Hey, Rich, how you doing?
Hey, I'm super good today.
Are you excited for day two?
Yeah, I'm pumped. I have done some stuff in the past that I am excited to try and merge into what I'm doing in the present.
Mhm.
I don't know if you want to say anything else before I jump into that, or if I'm just like, shooting at the hip here, going too far, too fast.
No, we love sneak peeks over here on Adobe Live. So I love that you're giving us an insight into what we're doing today. If you did not join the stream yesterday with Rich, it was day one with Rich. We were working again in Adobe Fresco. So make sure to watch the replay for that. And if you want to start your day with some Photoshop, really amazing Photoshop tips and tricks, make sure to tune in every weekday at 9 a.m. Pacific with Voodoo Val. Learn with a new prompt every single day. You can put in the work and post your stuff on the Discord community and get feedback from our mentors and the lovely moderators. But if you're watching this on YouTube, I would like to say that if you would ask, if you would like to ask questions to Rich, make sure to come on over to Behance. I will be reading the chat there. So hop on over to be.net/Adobe Live. With that said, I want to say hi to all of the friends already in the chat who are super pumped about Rich working his magic today. So let's say hi to Wade, who will also be moderating for us. Hey, Wade, hello. Hope you're doing well. We have Frank in the chat, Robert. Thank you, everyone, for joining again for day two. And Rich, can you show us all of the stuff that you've done till now? Is that too much to ask? And tell us a little bit about yourself, and let's dive into what we have planned for day two.
Awesome. Yeah, let's jump into it. I'm not going to show you everything that I've done the last 15 years because that's just too much. But yesterday, what I created was this piece here. It was a Doodleverse piece, and it was really fun. And it's minted now. It is an NFT living on the Avalanche blockchain, which is really cool. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. So I'm going to try to take something like this, and I'll quickly show you some of the other Doodleverse stuff. You can find a lot of it on Behance. Behance, I really struggle saying this word. It's probably my worst word at the moment to say. I can't get it out of my mind. I've been saying it Behance for the last 15 years, since whenever Behance came out. Behance. I don't know. So I'm going to try, combine stuff like this into a style that I call Visual Deluge, which is very abstract. So I'm going to close this and check this one out. And you can see it's very abstract. There's a lot of shapes, a lot of color, a lot of brushes. It's very different, on first glance. But what I like to think of it as, it's like on a spectrum. Like the Doodleverse stuff is intentional doodling, and this is like intuitive doodling. And I want to try like merge those two things together. And yesterday you asked me a couple of questions like, have you ever tried your line work being blue, or have you done this, or have you done that? So I'm like, yeah, there've been ideas, but I haven't really tried it in a whole piece and experimented and played just yet. This is a few more Visual Deluge pieces. This one's quite collage-y as well. Doodle bomb, collage, just a lot of different layers. That's what I was going for here. Also within a grid. So I really like working with something, in something, like if you've ever sat at the doctor and then had to wait because doctors normally make you wait. And then you pick up a newspaper or a magazine and you just start like scratching people's eyes out and drawing things around their head. Like that's just really fun. So I find it's really helpful to start with something and then doodle on top of that. So what I'm going to try start with today is a couple of these bird characters, clouds, maybe some castles, and see where I get to from there.
I love that.
So,
I watched one of your streams earlier. I think it was on YouTube, and I love that you described your style as visual abundance. And that's like something that really resonated with what I was looking at, because I was like, maybe that is what it is. So
yeah,
I love the
lots.
style. I love all the elements. I love the symmetry in it. I love that there was a pie in the center, which was defining sort of the style and the collagey nature of the illustration. So I'm really excited for today. And if you guys have any questions for us in the chat, make sure to drop them, and I will be sure to answer and ask Rich all of them.
Yeah. Questions are good. Even if you're like thinking you're asking a silly question, just ask it. And so what I realized sometimes is that you may not be able to see exactly what I'm pressing when. Something will just appear up on the iPad and be like, where is that? Where did that come from? So just please ask. Last week I did this, which is kind of like a mixture between the two styles. There's a few Doodleverse elements, like these clouds over here. And then, tons of this like Visual Deluge kind of style over here. And I did this for my website and a business card. And this is basically what my head feels like most of the time. I just have ideas and I want to doodle and draw all the time. So let's get into it. I'm going to be just drawing on an A4 piece of paper. It's slightly bigger than what I'm used to, but I know that if I work on A3 or something bigger and I have a lot of layers, then things start to get slow. Even though Fresco, you can have tons and tons of layers. So I have
unlimited.
Some favorite brushes here, but I'll also be checking out, a bunch of different brushes, and I'll also be merging layers a lot more than I did yesterday, because there's also these really cool brushes over here, the watercolor and oil, and I can also sample like something on the canvas, which I'll show you a bit later. And there's also the Liquify tool, which I haven't really used in Fresco. So I'm pretty excited to try that out as well. So I'm just going to create a bit of a mess to start with, and then liquify it and see where we can get from there. And I will be
Are we
using...
going to get into marbling, the effect that you were talking about yesterday?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
Let's see.
Always,
maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to be using like these kind of colors. So like orange, purple, blue, and then maybe bring in some pinks a bit later. I don't want to use too many colors. So what I normally do with this kind of stuff is just create a color palette. But I've already got a color palette. So I'm just going to, create a bit of a mess on the canvas. And guys, if you're ever like stuck with what to do or what to draw, just do this. Just create a bit of like a mess, like even if it's a character like this, like it just gets something out, and you'll be surprised like what you come up with. And once you've made a mess, you're like, oh, I can now do something else. You can scrap this, or you can do something on top of it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some liquifying, and let's have a look at what this looks like.
So how did you get to the Liquify tool? I think I missed that.
Oh, sorry. So, okay, fine. Continue. Done. So it's under the move tool. Is it called the move tool? Yeah.
It is, yeah.
And then there's the Liquify tool right there.
Nice, okay.
And then this, I guess, is like a push kind of a tool. I'm actually not sure what these are all called. So let's check it out. So I'm going to do a little bit of liquifying here and there.
I love that. Like, is it? Do you think? I know you mentioned that just get stuff on out there. Do you think that these serve as like warm-ups for your actual illustration, or do you convert these to an actual illustration? Do they set the creative path for your illustration that day, or how does it work?
I think it can be whatever. Sometimes it's really helpful to draw in a book. So I've got these sketchbooks that I'll often doodle in or draw in, and I've got like a bullet journal that I'll just write or draw in as well. And then I'll do this kind of stuff as well. So 5 or 10 minutes just to warm up. But this can also then become an illustration. And I think it's really helpful to spend 5 or 10 minutes on something, but you often don't quite get to a really good end result. You need to spend an hour or 2 hours on something to really get into it. And sure, it may look terrible at the end, but in 2 days' time, you kind of unconsciously learn a bunch of stuff, and then things start working really, really well. So you have to push past that like stuck, uncomfortable kind of feeling stage. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, the blank canvas syndrome is real. For sure.
Yeah. There was, maybe I'll make a class on it one day, but this idea of the blank canvas being exciting rather than scary. It should be like, yeah, I get to create stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not actually sure what I'm doing here with this brush or this tool. I think I
this
might
is called scallop or crystallize, one of those. I love how they modify the shapes.
It's doing something. I'm not exactly sure what it's doing. But yesterday I spoke a little bit about my philosophy around experimenting and playing and exploring. And seriously, somebody needs to explore. Somebody needs to play to make that first tutorial. Or, how does this work? How does the developer decide, this is how it's going to work? It's all about play and exploring and, just experimenting with different things and seeing where it leads. And a lot of people are like, well, how do I know where it leads? It's like, well, just try it. And once you start learning how the tools work, then you'll begin having ideas about how to use the tools for something. Whatever it may be. All right, so I've played a little bit here. I'm going to commit. I think I need to press done. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm going to create a new layer just to do some line work. And I'll go for this halftone burlap. I think all of these are Kyle's brushes. Kyle T. Webster, the genius that he is. So pretty much just always using his brush or one of his brushes.
More than 2,000 brushes.
Man, it's just like, what did you do with your life, Kyle? I made brushes.
I love that. He's been doing that for over a decade, and I absolutely love where his ideas come from. I'm just inspired every time I see new brush sets, and even though I may not be using those brushes on a daily basis, but I'm always excited to try them and use them in my workflow somehow. I love them.
Yeah, I mean, just to experiment. This one's really cool because it looks pretty solid, but if you make it a little bit bigger, it becomes this kind of halftone kind of a feel. So you can press really hard and then soft, and then it becomes really handmade. And I really like handmade stuff. So I've got some thin lines here, but perhaps I can play with some thicker lines for these clouds. They would also have eyes. And here they would also have eyes. And start building a couple of elements for the illustration. And you'll probably find that I don't undo as much today.
Yeah.
Whereas yesterday I was like, line, undo, line, undo, line. Okay, just one more, undo, line. Okay, yeah, that one's good. Whereas this is more like, well, whatever happens, happens. And we're just going to build on top of each other, layer after layer after layer.
I love that. I feel like I should do that as a practice sometime. Don't undo for 10 days and see what I come up with. That would be hard, but I would love to
draw
do that.
Really slowly. You'd be like, okay, can't undo.
Who says I can't use new layers though, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to
There's always a loophole.
Layer. There is, yeah. Okay, so no undos and also just one layer. That would be a very interesting challenge.
Yeah. Absolutely fun to watch someone else do it.
Yeah, so those kind of challenges are really good. I also have one where you can't lift your hand from the paper.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, okay, how do I do life without lifting my hand from the paper? It's pretty difficult. But then you come up with some interesting art, and It's you can then apply what you learn there, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, into the work that you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, everyone watching also. I mean, even if you're just working and lurking, there's always things we pick up on. And even if it's just the talk that we're talking about, or just a different small technique that you can incorporate in your work, that can go a long way, actually, to be honest. So I love that.
I also really like working and lurking.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up,
That's always
workers
my
and
jam.
lurkers? Man, that's really cool. So here it feels almost like a bit of a print. Like I've gone out the lines, which I wouldn't do in a typical Doodleverse piece.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's starting to feel really printy, which I'm liking already. I didn't expect that. So like these edges here, it feels like, you know, torn paper. It's great. And I'll pop some white in here for the eye.
Wade in the chat gives us a very fun, cool trick. Wade says, I've painted with no undo. You just use the canvas color or others to sample and continue to paint. Hey, that is brilliant. I didn't even think of that in this moment. Thanks, Wade. That's it.
Yeah, Wade said something yesterday and I was like, yeah, true, but also not really what I was going for. But I like you, Wade. I haven't met you, but what you're saying in the chat, it's great.
Yeah. Wade is also another creative, and Wade does amazing fantasy art and even game art, environments, all of it. You name it, Wade does it all. We love Wade's work over here.
That's awesome. So this brush is one that I use for my 100-day project. And what I really like about this is like the longer you like stick on it, the lighter it gets. Like you can see like the different intensities. It kind of just like bleeds into each other and it feels very printy, like, or maybe like a stamp or watercolor or ink or something. I really like it.
I love that. Is that the watercolor brush? No, it's not.
No, it's not. It's called this Kyle's Copier Bigger Grain Dark.
Ooh, so like that is a very fun brush.
Yeah, I have two staples. One is this brush, or when I say staples for my brand, Tap Tap Kaboom, if I do any like hand lettering kind of stuff, it's this brush, and I think it's this dry media dark sketch. Just epic brushes. All right, I'm gonna create a new layer and do some more on top of here. And this kind of stuff, I'm like, I don't actually know what I wanted when I first was looking for this brush, but when I found it, I was like, I've been looking for this for years. It was really good. So what did you call this little circle
The touch modifier? The touch
modifier.
shortcut. Yeah, either way.
It's really cool. It means I can just, you know, erase with the same brush that I'm using, which is just, it's super helpful. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back on this layer over here. Let's try something new, like comics. Halftones. Halftones are cool.
Halftones, yeah.
Oh, this is really big. So this is like, okay, I don't know if I like that, but I'm just going to go for it. And just pop it in here. Maybe change the color a bit.
Wait, are we on the right layer? Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the pink layer. But I also don't really mind at the moment if I go over stuff because it's very loose and very free. And so what I like to do quite often is just add a lot of elements on a page and then start filling in the gaps and working on top of things. And, you know, if I was precious about the original layers, I might get a bit sad that you can't see them anymore. But it helps just create stuff on top of. Like this is really interesting now. If I drop the size, let's maybe go for an orange here.
Ooh,
just have all of these elements.
I love that. So do you always start with a white canvas or do you tone your canvas ever?
Yeah, I pretty much always start with white. Although, yeah, sometimes I start with like a dark blue. And sometimes I will do a lot of like the marbling all the way to the edges with a couple of different colors. And that creates the base for the canvas. So what I'm going to do now is just merge all of these. And this is like, oh, are you sure you want to do that, Rich? It's like, yeah, why not? Like, let's do this. Merge layers in group. And so this is actually really freeing. It's like, oh, I
Mind
don't have to
blowing.
worry about going back and undoing and seeing if this works and seeing if that works. It's just like, it's done. And I think
Sometimes you
when
just
you
have
work
to
on
take the
paper,
plunge.
yeah, I mean, when you're working on paper, it's like, well, that's what happens. There is no like undo. You just have to go with what you've done.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a little bit more marbling here, or liquifying. Maybe what this does this turn it at all?
Ooh. Wow. I love that.
All right, so that's a bit interesting.
Kind of gives it the droopy effect. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, even that now is like, ooh, my brain's like, check it that. I'm. Let me go out of here. Continue. Done. I'll just paint over here. So like this area here where there's the horn, like I really like that. Like that is a new character. It's almost like a rhino cloud.
Yep.
Which I really like. It's like, okay, let's put a new layer in and create some, of our own rhino clouds on purpose. Let's go for ink, fountain pen maybe, classic comic snip. Something like that maybe. Let's bump up the size.
It's so fascinating to see this piece come to life from start to finish, because I wouldn't have ever imagined that this was your process creating any of the pieces for the Visual Deluge collection. And now I have to go
Please.
back to look at those pieces just to see if I can figure out how you made these. So that's super fun.
So I would love to know what do you think the process was to create those Visual Deluge pieces?
I honestly have no idea. There's this one with like a navy blue background, which has like vertical lines and shapes, and it has very symmetric things going on. I think it's in the number 2 collection, and it has. I just assumed that you created a bunch of selections and use the brushes to fill those shapes, and then went on top with like maybe a spray brush, and then there is some doodling with some circles on the side, and then there are more lines, and there's like Easter eggs in there. There's alphabets. So that was really fascinating for me to look at. I really got attracted by the colors in there.
I mean, I think a lot of that process was pretty much like how it happened. I started in Adobe Illustrator, and I put a grid down, and I joined a bunch of lines. I removed some shapes to create a really interesting grid. And from there, I did fill in the shapes, but not with a paint bucket. I actually drew in the shapes to make it feel handmade. And then I just carried on adding more and more stuff, sometimes adhering to the grid, sometimes veering from it, which is a very like fun process to go about. And here, for example, it might be like, well, okay, like some people might even say, cool, that's done. I could put that on a postcard or on a print, but it's like, how much time do we have left? Like an hour and 45 minutes or an hour and a half or something?
Hour and 10 minutes. Yeah. Hour and a half. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we have an hour and a half. We're about 23 minutes into the stream. So a lot of time, but we do have an artist spotlight at the 90-minute mark. So there's that. If you want to nominate, people watching in the chat can nominate yourself or someone that you find inspiring, and we can highlight them in the next artist spotlight, in one of the future artist spotlight, I should say.
In the future artist spotlight. Forgot what I was gonna say now, but it's like, so you could stop now, and a lot of people would be like, yeah, that's done. But for me, I love clutter, abundance, like deluge, just adding more and more stuff. Like, what else can we add? What else can we try? Like, how can we make these little what did I call them? Rhino clouds.
Rhino horns. Clouds.
Different, like we start adding some polka dots, start adding some different colors, and it's just like very loose and free. Like this becomes a really interesting character here. start adding a couple of legs.
A couple of legs. Yeah.
It's an insect, so So like that, it's like, like that's a really cool creature or a character that I could take somewhere else. Like I could write a book about that, or a kid's book, or it could just be a Doodleverse piece on its own. So if I go to my favorite brushes, like all of a sudden this becomes, something like this.
I know we were talking about children's books yesterday. Have you worked on any children's books, or are currently working on any exciting children's books characters, or something you can share with us?
No, I'm all NFTs these days, but
Would you like
it's on my list. It's like very high on my list. I actually got approached the other day by some poster company doing posters for kids, and I was going to illustrate a pirate quote for them, but they said I was too expensive. So I was like, fine. So, but I was very excited. I was like, yeah,
another day.
Yeah. So it's definitely on my list of things to do. I love making up stories. Today, I just minted an NFT about a tower. Maybe I can show you. Maybe I can't. How would I find it? Maybe. But it's
maybe I
the
can
story.
Find it if you tell me where it is while you work on it.
I think if there's a link somewhere. I might be able to find it online. I'll find it and see if it copies straight to my iPad. Let's see if that happens. Or maybe I can put it in the chat chat. Do I have access to the chat chat?
You do. Chat. You can send it to me and I can share it in chat. And yes, Frank has an amazing question in the chat saying, do we need to be an artist? You can be any kind of creative. You can be a video creator, a content creator, a video motion designer, illustrator, graphic designer, or even someone who does traditional craft making. And if you like their work and you find it to be inspiring, or if you are someone who does all of those things, make sure to put your name and links in the artist spotlight tab right above chat. And I'm going to put this link in the chat right now that Rich was talking about and can tell us more about it now. Go ahead.
No, sorry. It's not going to work. It's not yet minted, actually.
No worries. We can talk about it still, even without sharing the links. That's all right.
Ooh. I could use Dropbox. Let's see if we have time later. Otherwise, I'm going to veer off topic here.
No worries.
But so what I've done now is I've created this character, which I'm like super impressed by, just to be impressed by my own stuff. Yeah. But this is how I come up with characters. It's like, I'm just doodling. I'm just having fun. Like, I'll show you this Behance, these characters, these kind of bird-like snake.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
It's like, so Rich, how did you come up with that? Like, what is going on here? But like on the train, I was just drawing stuff and that is what came out. So I think that like, this is a very important part of the process, is just to have a lot of fun around a particular piece. And, perhaps this doesn't make it into the NFT world or onto a wall or whatever, but it's going to then inspire me to create a bunch of other things, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's go for this.
I love that with every piece, you can just like look at it for days. I can just look at I can just take any of your pieces and just look at it and look at all the minor things that I would otherwise miss if I just glanced at it. And I love that. Like the flower blooming into beaks and then a snake, which has it's mind-blowing to me.
I love it. Really, I mean, a lot of people that I've sent it to or that have purchased my art have just been like, I can look at this for there's a lot of stuff going on here, Rich. I'm like, yeah, like that's the point. You're meant to look at something for a long time. A lot of the stuff in the NFT space is just like, well, cool. That's a nice profile picture. Like moving on.
So do you also have a shop for like prints that people can purchase along with the NFTs? Is that a thing for you?
No, not yet. I'd love to do 5 million things. I've tried like selling prints in the past, but I needed to like split my energy between like print selling and making classes and doing client work and stuff. So I was just like,
Let's take a
it's
breath.
just so much effort. Yeah. So I stopped it. And also sometimes you don't get a lot of royalties from prints or whatever. So I was like, man, I could spend like just 1 hour doing some client work and I would make like more money in 1 hour doing client work than the whole year selling prints. It's like, wow, that's crazy. So I also stopped it for that reason. But I'm hoping that over the next couple of months, I'll be able to get into printmaking, but like high quality printmaking. Like, what is it called? Digital printing.
G-Slay.
That one. Yeah. So I'd love to get into that, and then frame the prints really nicely and offer them to my collectors.
I totally pronounced that wrong, but yeah, you get the idea.
It's the G with the funny E. It's the Behance glissé thing, Guys, if you're watching this, you just know how to say it. You can't really even tell us how to say it.
It's like GIF or GIF all over again. It's just.
But guys, I know that one. It's GIF. I'm telling you, it's GIF because the guy who made GIFs, he came up on some stage and he didn't say anything. He just put up this like massive presentation and it says, you say it GIF with a J, not a G, and he just walked off the stage. And so
perfect.
That's how you say it. But like, I don't judge people who say GIF because it does sound better. I think GIF sounds like peanut butter or something. So yeah, no judgment there.
I can see that. Yeah. I love that. So are we now? Yeah, go ahead. You were just saying what I was asking you.
Oh yeah. So now I'm just adding raindrops. And if I ever get like either bored or I don't know what to do, I'll just add raindrops to things that look like clouds. And it just like, it adds like a bunch of abstract shapes to the piece and just adds a bunch of noise or clutter. These sound like negative words, but for me, they're not.
Yeah.
I'll just go for a brush pen, or let's try something like a grungy inker. Yeah. There we go. So sometimes it's really nice to, you go for it.
No, I love that you have the ability to look past. Like if I were doing something like this and doodling on my iPad or even on paper, I would always feel afraid of doing too much. And I'm so fascinated by the fact that you're not letting that hold you back from creating. And that's just amazing.
I mean, so what's really fascinating is that with Fresco and the digital tools available to us, like you can do a bunch of this stuff and then you can share the time lapse. So at any point you can be like, oh, actually this point in the artwork is really cool. I think there might even be a history feature in Fresco. Like I could go out of it and come back into it and it could save the different states. And I mean, you could also duplicate the document multiple times and export it. And like, that's amazing. So you could have like a bunch of different states of your artwork.
Love that.
Ooh, okay, so this for me, this like dark-eyed, big thick outlines kind of a creature, like that could be really cool spray painted onto a wall, or if there was some kind of a stencil made. So I'm going to try find some what are they called, spatter brushes, cross hatches, dry media, halftones. There we go, spatter. We'll see what we can come up with here, just to give it a bit.
Wade was telling us the pronunciation of the prints, but I still don't know how to say it. So thank you, Wade, for sharing.
It's a tricky one.
Yep. Ooh, that is a really nice way to introduce the texture there.
Yeah, that's a bit big. Let's go smaller. Oh, okay, there we go.
So we have a very, very fun question in chat from Wade. Wade asks, has Rich ever minted a time lapse as an NFT? 2 pieces for 1 image.
No, I haven't. I have shared the time lapse with the owner after they bought it.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. but no, I haven't. Maybe I will.
Yeah.
I've also thought of, painting like an actual piece of art and then burning it. So it no longer exists in the real world. And then just having the NFT, like maybe I mint it.
Yeah.
And then burn it. So literally it doesn't exist, but it does digitally. And then perhaps I can also film the whole thing.
Yeah.
Some really cool ideas. So that's looking pretty interesting. Maybe I'll do a little bit more here. Maybe a bit smaller.
I also love the time lapse idea. That could also turn into something nice. Like you mentioned, there's like parts of the illustration that make or break it, or like super interesting for that particular piece. You could maybe slow it down or talk through the process while you're doing that, and only share it with like the people who are minting it. Maybe send a teaser. I don't know. Just some ideas out there.
What a really cool platform is doing, it's the link that I shared. It's called Async, but you can basically own a layer in a piece of art, and then you can decide what that layer looks like. So if somebody owned this particular layer, they could be like, okay, cool, I want that kind of outline or this kind of outline. And then everybody who owns an NFT will then get an update, because then that layer changes in that document. And I'm like, what? That's really cool.
Did not know that. That is really cool. Is it async.art?
Yeah, that's it. So, I mean, when it comes to like digital art, like they're pushing the boundaries. So like this is digital art because, it's on an iPad, but it's not moving. And I know animation is moving, but that's animation. But it's like, okay, how do we make this dynamic? Can it change as the weather changes? Can it change if the stock price falls or whatever? And I think a really cool example is in the music sphere. So as more people own an NFT, the distortion increases in the song. So every single piece that is minted is unique until they get to the last version, and it's so distorted that you can't really hear the piece. So there's an incentive to buy earlier pieces. But that kind of stuff is really interesting. Like, who's doing that in the real world? Imagine like lining up and going to an artist and saying, cool, can I please have like this copy? And then the next guy's like, can I have this copy, but can you change it slightly? Just a little bit more spray paint. And the next one, can you please do this little piece of spray paint here? It's like that kind of stuff doesn't really exist in the real world. But digital, dynamic, interactive art, like I think that's where the future of NFTs
I love
lie.
That actually goes very tuned into like virtual reality and augmented reality stuff now. I'm wondering, have you ever used Adobe Aero or any other augmented reality app to just visualize your artwork or make like triggers or behaviors with it? Like, hey, I'm going to walk towards my artwork and then this happens or something like that, because that would be also something really fun.
It would be, but I haven't experimented with it. I have given a bunch of layers to an artist, a VR artist, to work with. And so the idea was water is life. So it's an illustration like this. And there's no blue in it. But when you put your VR goggles on, there's a layer of blue in front of it. And so you see this like kind of, what is it? Like parallax 3D piece of art parallax, with your VR goggles on.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool. But I would love to see my Doodleverse pieces in virtual reality or augmented. I think augmented reality would be better, because like as you pass a wall, you could be like, okay, this is the Doodleverse wall, and you can see like birds flying past you and stuff like that.
Kind of like immersive art exhibitions that we see these days that are getting really popular. And I love those, because with virtual reality, I feel like sometimes you just lose your sense of reality. You're just wearing these right now because the technology isn't as advanced as it may be in like 10 years. And you still don't know the sense of real life when you're wearing the virtual reality headset. And you may, like some people feel like they have a headache 30 minutes into it. But with augmented reality, that's not the case, because you're still actually seeing it through a screen, or maybe it's like a projection of the artwork. So I think that's a really good incentive there. And I
Yeah.
personally love immersive art, so I feel like that would be amazing to see.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff excites me like big time. It's
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
what? You can see stuff like in front of you, but it's not really there.
Yeah.
Like, it's exciting. Man. So these guys are pretty interesting. Like you asked if I'd done any line work, not in black. And so here's
Yeah.
some red line work. They kind of remind me of ninjas, but maybe they look, I don't know, like the most evil of the characters that I've ever made, like red, black clouds with these like red, splotchy kind of
Yeah.
legs,
Legs.
tentacle kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So like this piece here, like, man, really cool again as a concept of like evil clouds. And
Yeah.
it also kind of looks like a print that could degrade in quality over time because it's a stamp or screen printed or something. So that's something also that I would love to do, is do some screen printing, or what's it called? Risograph.
Risograph, yeah. Riso prints are really, I love riso prints.
Yeah. So like that would be cool to start saying, okay, guys, you buy one of my Doodleverse pieces. I now have to then think about, okay, how do I make it really big and do it time sensitively? And then print it on Riso, and then frame it and then ship it to them. Like that for me would be ideal. Like, cool, you bought it on the blockchain, but now it lives on your wall. Like, it makes me so happy when I see my art on people's walls.
I would love to own a piece of your art and put it on the wall behind me. That would be great. I'm actually looking for art. That's why I actually asked that, hey, do you have a shop? Can I get some of your art?
Well, yeah, you can definitely get some of my art. I will chat to you after this in a DM.
Love that.
So exactly how it works.
Love it.
Okay. So this is also an interesting concept here, like having this outline, but then also having shape kind of overlap the colored in version or the fill. It's like, so this starts to look a lot like a stencil or something, rather than just an outline and colored in. And I think I might also add a couple of more, like maybe paint splats or something. Would runny inkers be the right thing? Maybe.
Runny ink is always the right thing.
So here we go.
Wade agrees with me. Wade says a massive Rich Armstrong as an entire wall would be amazing. Rich Armstrong painting. That's what he meant. Yeah, that makes sense.
Guys, you're just like, you're like pressing all my buttons here, like real printed stuff, murals, like windows, like.
Yeah. He's like, I'm just one person. What all do you want me to do? We wanted all, Rich. We wanted all. I love that. I hope that you all are also enjoying all of these. And if you have any requests for Rich in the future, we're all yours. I don't know if we'll be implementing it, but we can at least read them up.
Yeah, man. I'd love to see all my stuff like in animation, on walls, in augmented reality. It's just like, Rich, like, what don't you want to see your stuff in? It's like, yeah, that's a good point. Like everything and anything, please. I'm just going to merge my layers down again to be like, okay, let's continue. So that's really powerful. It's like, okay, the state is set now. Let's continue. Let's add some more layers. And so what I'll try to do here is start working with some blend modes, because that also becomes pretty fun.
Yeah.
And with these colors, it works really, really well. So I'm going to start with multiply, but sometimes it works better with darken or color or some other blend mode. And which one should I choose? Maybe I'll go for a yellow or like an orange. See what that looks like. Go for a bigger brush. So this is like a bird shape. Yeah. And then perhaps I can do some white feathers on top of it.
Is the layer on multiply?
Yeah.
Nice. I love that effect it's creating on the lighter colors underneath. Kind of makes it look more vibrant somehow. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
it's brilliant. I just have no words.
So I guess, yeah, it's just at some point, when you're discovering your style, like you kind of have to push yourself into a new direction. So you can copy people's styles and you'd be like, oh yeah, that looks quite nice. But at some point you need to say, well, I'm going to try something different that doesn't quite feel like what I'm comfortable with, and I haven't quite seen it before. And you might feel uncomfortable with it for, maybe a day, 2 days, a week or something. But then you return to it and you're like, oh, actually, that's really nice. So now I'm on the next layer above, and it's not on a multiply blend mode. It's on a normal blend mode. I don't know what summer brushes are, but let's check out Disastro. Oh, Disastro leaf, Disastro. Let's see what this looks like.
I haven't used that one. Oh, look at that texture. I love it.
Okay,
Becca in the chat
here,
has a really cool question. Becca wants to know if you're allowed to say, and there are no NDAs, what kind of projects do you do for clients?
I don't actually do that many client projects at the moment. I'm looking to expand my repertoire. My most recent client project was an underwear project. Maybe I told you guys yesterday, but it's a boys and men underwear project. And it's almost like Happy Socks, but for underwear. So you pay a monthly fee to get undies shipped to you every month. They also have socks. And I was like, this is rad. And the stuff that they supply, it's got some really cool illustrations. So I was like, I'm going to approach them and just be like, look, I want to do something for your underwear range. And they were like, go for it, do it. So yeah, that's what I've done. And then I'm still trying to find clients that I want to work with. But I'm also really busy making classes and creating NFTs and also developing my style. Something like this might be really cool for someone in particular. And some people love the Visual Deluge stuff, and other people are like, we love the Doodleverse stuff. I'm like, okay, I've run out of that, but do you want some Visual Deluge stuff? They're like, no, I want the Doodleverse stuff, please. I'm like, oh, okay, fine.
How do you approach a client? You said that you have dream clients or people you would like to work with. How would you go about approaching them, and what would you just say to them? How do you find them? How do you make them find you is the real question here.
Well, how I get them to find me is just posting on Behance, on Instagram, going to meet people out in Amsterdam, connecting with people on Twitter, doing collaborations with people. So that's I'm just going to have fun and hopefully something comes of this. But if there's someone that I like to work with, I go find them on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm just like, hi, this is who I am. I have 15 years worth of experience. Here's a portfolio. It looks really good. You have to back up what you're doing or what you're proposing with good work. You can't be like, I'm a creative person, an artist, and I'd love to draw on your windows. They're like, you're not touching my windows, But if you can, provide them with a plan and say, this is who I've done it for, and these are my commercial expertise, and this is my portfolio. Can I work with you? Yes, please. And so
always have a portfolio, body of work.
Yeah, so I've got a meeting with Paperlike, and Paperlike are the people that make this little grippy thing on my pencil, and the really cool iPad protector. It's a screen protector, but it makes it feel like a Wacom tablet. It doesn't feel like paper. It feels like a Wacom tablet. So it's coarser. It doesn't feel like glass. It does cause your pencil to get a little bit what's the word? It wears away.
More wear and tear.
Yeah, a lot more. But it feels so much better. So I'm meeting with them and potentially going to be doing an Instagram takeover, potentially in the future do some of their website stuff. So I was just like, hey man, I really like your product. Can I take over your Instagram? Can I do stuff on your website? Can I do an Instagram live? I'm just proposing stuff. Literally, if they say no, like it doesn't affect
Yeah,
me
you
at
don't
all.
lose anything. Yeah. You got to put
No?
yourself out there. Going back to that from yesterday. I love that. Yeah. I think that's like the first hurdle that you have to clear, especially after, like, once you have a portfolio and you have like some of the passion projects similar to the kind of work that you would like to do. Let's say you want to paint murals for a client, paint your own mural, paint your own wall, that sort of a thing. That way you'll have experience with paints, with the difficulties and challenges that you might have when you're actually painting for someone else, and it's a paid project and you have something to show. So once you have that, and then like just saying that you can do this and this is what you've done really actually helps. I mean, just
Yeah,
manifesting it and working towards your goals actually does help sometimes.
it
Sometimes.
does. And
Yeah.
like seriously, if you're young and you're still
Mhm.
living at home, like do lots of stuff for free or for cheap.
Yeah.
Like friends want a business card, make business cards. Friends want a website, make a website. Friends want a tattoo design, design a tattoo for them. Seriously, it's just like do as much as you can. Get it out there.
Yeah.
Try put your stuff on as many things and places as you can. And
Mhm.
sometimes you'll be like, I don't know how to make a website. Like, sorry, no. But honestly, like if you've never tried, like you may just be saying no to like the most amazing thing that lights up your
Mhm.
world because you
Absolutely.
don't know about websites. You don't know if you like making websites or not, or if you
Mhm.
have a gift for them. So
Yeah.
sometimes it might require a month of learning or whatever. But then after that, you're set. You're like, yeah, I found my thing. And then if you've got some illustration or design background, you're like, wow, I can make really good looking websites that function amazingly. And so you bring in your past experience and expertise into this new thing
Mhm.
that you're doing. So
Absolutely.
here you might be like, wow, Rich, this is looking really interesting and cool. Like, how did you learn how to illustrate? It's like, yeah, cool. I doodled a lot. I did screen printing at school. I did
Mhm.
web and graphic design, multimedia design. I learned about color theory and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So all of that is like subconsciously like bubbling to the top as I'm doing this. It looks
Yeah.
good to me now, but maybe like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to get this far because I hadn't been
Yeah.
doing web layouts or app layouts for
Yeah.
5 years or 10 years or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah. All of your experience counts. As someone from a tech background, I always feel that my analytical skills and whatever I learned in my engineering formal degree always plays up into what I do now, because thinking of design the way that I did with engineering and like code also helps me understand the back end and the front end of things. So
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of plays into everything that you're doing, even illustration. Making thumbnails, for example, I was talking about that yesterday, and even that works with like works side by side with design. So I really love that. And you can't really explore that without exploring and experimenting and trying all different kinds of styles. Like you said, if you like someone's style, copy it, but don't post it as your own. That's one thing. But copy it for practice, make a study of an artist that you really like, and learn how they do, how you think they do stuff. And then that's how you will actually end up having your own style one day.
Yeah.
That
It's just
finally.
like all these, like, as Bob Ross says, like the happy accidents. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Like that
Yeah.
could become something that I really like to push into. And you take that little accident and then you go, this is working about my particular illustration or
Yeah.
design or magazine layout or animation or video editing style. And you take that little piece of gold and you take it to the next project. So instead of like redoing everything on this one, you're like, this is working. Let's go and implement it over here. And then again, you take what's working there, the thing that excites you most, and that's maybe a mistake, and be like, let's accentuate that. Let's take it further. Sometimes I just really am terrible with words. I'm like, on paper, I can see it, but when it comes out my mouth, I'm like, oh, no, definitely not. But yeah, you take that little piece of gold and then you fan it into flame, or
Yeah.
that mistake. So now I've decided just to fill up some of the white space around here
Mm-hmm.
with some different shapes, maybe a couple of other things. I can still
Yeah.
draw some castles. I'd like to draw some more eyes. So these birds have become really interesting. It
Yeah.
feels very much like a zine, like screen
Mm-hmm.
printed, stamped, printed,
Yeah.
photocopied, that kind of stuff with different colors. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really interesting. I really like this area over here with the different colors. There's black, blue, orange, halftones, scratchy feathers and stuff. And maybe even here can add a little bit of intense orange for the eyelashes and give it a bit of an eye bag.
Yeah, and I'm I'm saying this for the millionth time, but I am fascinated how you incorporate like print techniques into digital and like use that from your experience as well, because it's amazing.
Yeah, I really love print stuff and the analog side of things, but I don't have any of that equipment. Like I did screen printing at school, but I haven't screen printed since then. And I want to do risograph printing and lino cuts. And I've got some canvases around here, but like I used to have inks when I used to live in South Africa. I don't have inks anymore. So trying to replicate it has been really fun. Because having an iPad and having an app like Fresco, it's like you have the world in your pockets, or no, actually not in your pockets. It's quite big. My iPad's huge. You could put it in a backpack. Instead of a Wacom tablet, you've got this very powerful iPad that you can also watch Netflix on, and you can, read books on and visit websites and whatever. So it's this really versatile piece of equipment that you can do amazing digital art on, right? Like this is just crazy that you can do this on an iPad, and my fingers are clean. I can just walk away from this. I don't have to tidy up. I don't have ink all over me, which is fun at times, but on a train, you can't do that on a train, right?
Yeah.
So
the accessibility is definitely a thing.
Animation and the ruler. I did not mean to do that.
It's okay. It may be a happy accident.
I've never used this
Fresco
ruler.
wants you to animate it. Look at that. It's
always
the world.
here,
It's
like,
the universe.
in this corner.
Yeah.
Do some animating, please, Rich.
Yeah, Anthony in the chat was wondering if you ever expanded your skill set outside of illustration. I just mentioned that you have actually, you do it all. So yeah, we talked a little about that yesterday, Anthony, if you want to go back and watch the replay for part 1. But Rich over here does it all. He has a graphic design and multimedia background, does product design, does UX, UI, you name it, basically. Is that what it is?
Yeah, if I had more time, I would learn more stuff. It would just be, it's all about time. Like I'm ADHD or ADD, so I like getting onto new things. But, maybe it's not also just only about that. Maybe it's like I actually do like learning new things. And it's not just like, oh, let me learn about this weird plant today. It's like, I'm not interested in that. But let me learn about this new technological thing. Or, I see that Illustrator came out with this cool new path thing. Let me try that. Or, wow, this is a really cool new video editing tool. I mean, a few days ago, one of my buddies in the NFT world sent me a Discord invite for an AI bot server. And so you just type in, okay, I want a castle in a doodle style. And in like 40 to 60 seconds, it comes up with 4 different images of like doodle style. And you're like, okay, number 2. And so then it iterates on number 2. And you're like, okay, number 3. And it iterates on number 3. Then you can say like upscale number 3. And it gives you this castle in a doodle drawing style. And you can be like, I want futuristic art. I want it in Magritte kind of a style. I want it in a Dali style. It's bonkers. And I'm just like, wow, that was really cool to try. Like now my brain's spinning around like, oh, okay, what's possible? What's next? Like, what does this mean? And so some people can also learn and observe. I learn best by doing stuff. So I make classes on how to animate. I just jump into After Effects. I'm like, I want to make these things spin and rotate and do cool things perpetually. Like, how do I actually do that? I can't read and watch somebody else's stuff. I get bored or I just lose my focus within like 2 minutes. But I can sit there for 4 hours trying to make something work and understand it. And that also then makes me a way better teacher because I'm like, this is what's frustrating. You don't want to do this. You want to do this because then you will not get frustrated.
Yeah. Coming at it with like a perspective of a student and really finding what can be a hurdle for someone as a student or as a beginner is something that really sets you apart.
Yeah. It helps a lot to have that beginner's mindset and to have just, recently gone through something.
Yeah.
And so there's not a lot in my life that I'm a super pro at. Like, sure, maybe I'm a super pro at like being creative, but I haven't been illustrating like this for a long time. No, maybe, I don't know. It's not like my main gig. I would say I'm like a very good super pro at UX and UI. And I haven't taught a class on that because I feel like I'm too deep. It's like, where do I even start? Like, this is what I've been doing professionally for the last 10 years. Like, how do I advise somebody on where to start in this world? Like, I can't.
Yeah.
Well, I can, but I find it quite difficult. Okay, guys, I want to show you something now. I'm going to see if this actually does merge down. Let's see. It did merge down. That was great. Merge down. So there is this oil. I'm just going to go for an oil paint round.
We're going to use oils now? Wow. We're doing all of it today, you guys. I love this. This is like the best of Adobe Fresco while also using all of Adobe Fresco. I love it.
Yeah, we're just not good at animate, okay?
Well, who knows? What if we have time and the universe wants you to animate?
Make some stuff flash with animation, just like ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Let's see.
Love it.
Okay,
yeah,
so
we're about 60 minutes into the stream. So just as a reminder for you all watching on YouTube, if you want to ask any questions and get a little more insight into Rich's process, come on over to Behance. I'm reading the chat here. So hop on over to be.net/Adobe Live. We had a question about AI art earlier that I answered, but if you have any more questions, feel free to ask, even if it's something that you think we might find silly, because we won't.
Okay, guys.
No question is a bad question.
Yes. I have a question I'm going to answer. Check this out. How do I do this? How do I start working with really interesting paints in Fresco? So what you do is you select the eyedropper tool, and then you go eyedrop a particular piece of eyedropper tool, and you go and select a particular piece of whatever on your canvas, and you'll see this really weird swatch here.
Yeah.
Recents.
Recents.
And I've got this like really cool swatch now. So if we had to just draw with a normal brush, like,
love that.
Check at that.
Yeah, the multicolor eyedropper is amazing. I mean,
like, that's just bonkers. Like,
how did we get to that?
That's just, I don't know. That's just like next level cool. So you can have a lot of fun with that. Man. But anyway, so let's go to oils.
Yeah.
And I've got this oil paint round. But now with oils, what you can do is you can turn paint mix up. So if you start painting on something, it will eventually just, become the color that's underneath it. So I tend not to put that too high. So I go down for like 2 or something, 3, 4, 5. And here, I like to just mix things in. And it really makes it feel like, oh, this actually feels like a painting now, not just digital painting.
Yeah.
And I like to just add these weird kind of squiggles. And it feels like, oh, it does kind of like merge the paint into it. And it feels kind of 3D, but it's not 3D. And even you could do some stuff underneath, but that wouldn't work because it's not picking up any paint beneath it.
Yeah.
But then you still can make these really cool shapes.
Yeah. I love that it also kind of gives it like a 3D effect because of the lighter and the darker tones that we have.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. So if we then go and select a new weird swatch, and it's also depends on your screen size, so or your zoom level. So we go select this maybe, or select this.
Yeah, we can see the preview on the top right? When we zoom in and eyedrop it.
Or can we?
Yeah, on the
Oh,
top right
yeah.
with multiple colors. Yeah.
I've never looked there while I've been doing this. So interesting. It helps to have a host or a second pair of eyes.
Well, yeah, we learn together sometimes on Adobe Live, and that's the beauty of it. I love it. Ooh, love that.
So it kind of
Love
feels
that.
a little bit like candy.
Yeah, I totally see it. I don't know what kind of candy that is. Maybe it's a winter candy. What are those called? Um,
I have no idea.
yeah, maybe someone in chat knows. I don't know what those
Yeah,
are called, but it kind of
guys,
looks like that.
this is where the chat must pull their weight. Please
Yep.
research what candy this is. Orange and white striped candy, please. Go search. Come back to us. You will be rewarded with chat
Some
fame.
more candy shaped noodles.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's try some more.
Ooh, when did you sneak in that purple in there? I did not see that. That looks pretty cool.
Where? This one?
Yeah, right where you zoom in.
I'm like, oh, this one here, but I realize you can't see that. But this one here.
Yep.
I think it's still part of the
The
marbling.
base layer, the first layer that we started off. Love that. Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to get interesting now. Let's add, maybe go a layer beneath. Let's add some big strokes. So there's this ink roller, which is just fantastic. Ooh, okay. Let's go to start. So I've selected this weird color as this weird group of paint as my swatch.
Yeah. What? That is mind blowing.
Okay. So this becomes like super interesting. And it changes how the piece kind of feels now that you've got like a bit of a base layer of orange at the bottom. And maybe we could change it to this now. Yeah. So if I just had to show this layer, where is this? Hide layer, hide all other layers. Like,
whoa.
Like it's kind of trippy, you know?
I was going to say exactly that, that it's tripping me up. But honestly, if I would have looked at this piece after you had created it, I would have thought that you made the background first. But it's really fun to see that that's probably one of the later things in the illustration.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, hey, to do the background last.
I love it.
Okay, so now, now we're going to do this on top, but we're going to use a blend mode. But maybe we go for something like screen.
Ooh, what? That is amazing. I love that all of my reactions are just, what? My mind is blown. How?
So like, I don't know, it kind of looks like a reflection or something.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a ray of light from the top right and all the birds are flying towards it. Well, there's like water and like sunset on the left. I love it.
It's really cool. So let's
and then
try
there's
this.
Like a windmill at the top left and like a person maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll go for screen again because it's quite a fun blend mode.
Yeah.
Maybe we can use a different brush now. Let's go for... There was some halftones somewhere here.
Yeah.
Here we go, halftones. Okay. Drop the size there. Yeah. And then underneath this, we put in some, I don't know what's happening there, but it looks really weird. Like I'm kind of mixing paint.
I don't know where you are. I lost it.
Oh, yeah, look.
I see it.
Look at this. Yeah. Like, what is going on here?
Oh, fun. That is so fun. What brush is that? So
it's the halftone brush, but I think because of the the swatch that I've got selected, it's like mixing it really weirdly.
I love it. That looks like looks like a happy accident.
Yeah.
Oh. I love how there's purple and orange in there, and also a bit of white.
Whew. Man. All right, so I'm digging it. I'm gonna merge all of these again. Let's go and select them all. Merge or flatten. Is it gonna work? Where is it? Merge layers and group. Okay, so that didn't quite work quite nicely. So I'm gonna have to put it into the background. And I'm gonna say merge layers and group. So now I've just got one background layer, which is awesome. Yeah. And we can start going on top of this. You might be like, but isn't it done? Isn't it finished? Well, maybe, but I still think that we can add quite a bit of detail. Like this guy has some thin lines or not so thick lines. And I think that we can work with that and, do a little bit of thinner drawing as well. So let's go back here to our favorites. Yeah. And I'll go to a charcoal pencil and I'll use a black or a blue. Let's go for blue because I always use black. And here we'll start doing some birds again.
Love that. And Wade has come through with like the candy names.
Oh, yeah.
Is it taffy? Is it red wines? Is it Twizzlers? I said all of it, Wade. It's all of it.
Oh, Twizzlers.
Twizzlers might be it. I think that's what I was thinking of initially.
That sounds pretty good, yeah. Okay, so something like that might be pretty cool. And then underneath, let's pop this over here again. We go for a bit of an orange. Because that like works really well together in this piece.
Yeah. I think by merging all these layers, it kind of also gives it that sense of depth that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten. I mean, just by looking at it, I can tell that there's a lot of layers underneath it. But I can't tell if they're merged. But just because they're merged, I can just see it more clearly somehow. I don't know how that's working, but that's just what my brain is saying.
It's like, okay,
there does look like there are layers underneath.
one piece. One thing happening as opposed to lots of different layers.
It's crazy.
Okay. So here, like this is looking pretty cool, and it might be something that I work with in the future is this blue color. So in the Netherlands, there is this ceramic style called Delft, and it comes from the Royal Delft family factory, and it comes from Japan. So basically everything that's cool in the Netherlands comes from somewhere else in the world because they went and stole it and brought it back here. So they were like, cool, this Japanese ceramic style looks really cool. We're taking it. Those tulips, really cool. We're taking it. So with the ceramic stuff, it goes into the kiln black and it comes out blue, which is really cool. Ooh. But everything is blue. And so they have these different shades or opacities of blue. And it's called Delft. So I want to create a series of this Doodleverse, but just in blue, maybe using halftones, maybe using some opacity, but it's all just blue. And I'll call it like Delft Doodles or something like that.
I love that. That kind of, I just looked it up. I did not know what it was exactly called, but I've seen that in someone's work before. There's this really cool illustration artist called Mark Conlan. I don't know if you know him, but he does a lot of, he does a lot of those whites and blue tones and pinks in his work. And I absolutely adore that style.
Very, very cool. I think he wouldn't come up as like, oh yeah, someone I would recommend or I'm inspired by. But when you say his name, I'm like, yeah, I know his stuff. It's really cool. I love it. And I particularly love that it's not just digital. It's also on ceramics and that's cool. Okay, so I really like this orange and blue. I think it's one of my favorite things of this piece so far. And I know it's on top. Yeah. So maybe I have a bit of a bias, but it's cool. And I think the eyes will try with white and blue as well.
Love it. Yeah, we have about 15 minutes until the artist spotlight. So I'm really excited to see the artist for
Awesome,
today and dive into all the work.
awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, you guys
Love
are
it.
gonna like who I present.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now this kind of feels like maybe a poster or graffiti on top of graffiti on top of graffiti. It's like this stuff here that feels like it's been there for a while. And somebody's like, we pasted something, and then somebody's spray painted something on top of that. And now this is like the most recent addition. And yeah, it looks cool. And then maybe on top of this, there's a little bit of grunge, which will go to our spatters.
I love that the way you described it, because it kind of looks like a collaborative graffiti, but like with multiple artists which try to follow the same style, but also have their own personality in it on all the layers. But it's still very cohesive. You can see different variations of like the same base style, and then like modifications of like different inspiration or like different printing techniques or colors as well. So yeah, I love the idea.
Now check this out. Like, this is something I've never tried, but it kind of feels like the birds have got some like jetpack fuel or something coming from their wings.
Yeah.
But it's like it's spray painted. So you could actually achieve this like in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely feels like street art or something like that.
Leaving a trail behind.
I like that a lot. Like a lot. So there's a bunch of stuff that I've really enjoyed about this piece. Like, I wish I could, maybe we'll just create a white.
Yeah.
Or a green. Let's go for green. There's no green. And we'll go for let's just go for brush pen. So these guys, great. I love them. I think they work so well on top and they fit really well. My little horn guy, I think he's going to be a great addition to the Doodleverse, which came from this guy, which was like a happy accident, right? And then these big thick lined clouds that kind of look like spray painted, super cool. And then I think these guys were also like the evil versions of that. So I'll be incorporating these kind of things into future artworks. So instead of spending like too much time or so much time experimenting, I'd be like, I know these work. Let's create a piece that experiment with these particular kind of characters in this particular kind of style.
Absolutely. Yeah. Reuse the assets that you have created in your pieces in the past and repurpose the content just to create something else, and while also experimenting, because while you're reusing all of that, you are subconsciously also making new stuff. So I love that. Mel in the chat had some questions about Fresco, and I know Wade already put the links for the system requirements, but Fresco is a free to use app. So if you have an iPad or an iPhone or even a Windows device with a compatible graphics tablet, you can actually use Fresco for free. There is also a premium subscription that you can subscribe to and get all the Kyle Webster brushes and cloud storage. But if you're just starting out, just want to test and experiment how the app is and if it's for you, if you really want to subscribe to it, you can download the free version and check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend it.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of the world, how would I say this? Like, you're creative at heart, like you were a kid once upon a time. And so just to unwind and do this for half an hour or 2 hours or whatever, man, it feels so good. So I'd highly recommend doing it, even just to relax and have some fun. This layer, I just went for an overlay blend mode and I just added some yellow here and there. I also add a little bit of red here and there. So I think that's, you start getting some purples again.
Yeah.
That becomes quite nice. And then on this layer up here, I'm going to go for this really cool brush called an ink splat. And what happens is that as you draw, is quite nice, but then as you press harder, it splatters. So you can, I'll go maybe with the blue. And you just add like a little bit of detail here and there, like just these fine lines. And then if you press a little bit harder, it creates some splat. Splat. It's a really nice word. And this adds just a little bit more of that, like, okay, it's another layer on top or behind what has been going on. And this, perhaps I can create some thinner eyes here and there. Or maybe I can even write something like an Easter egg, like hope.
Ooh. I also actually love that brush. I think I've used that in my Inktober drawings with like the spatter just to give it like the more organic feel that, hey, I just spilled my ink here. Just to add that added effect here. I love that.
Also, maybe, would be a good one. I say that a lot. But it doesn't need to be legible, but everybody that's watching this will be like, oh, that
I know what that is.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Let's go for a little bit of white here and there.
I know we were talking about this yesterday, but while you're describing your process, it does seem like if I wasn't constantly interrupting you, it would definitely seem like you're like a Bob Rossi, Doodleverse, Rich Armstrong. You can totally see that.
Oh man, I love hearing that. I love it. It's probably, the experience of being on Adobe Live has been one of my highlights of this year. Maybe my creative career. Just like, I think having a host is really cool to chat to, because when you're live, you're like, I can talk on Instagram to myself and see the people interacting or on a stage or whatever. But when you're, huddled over your iPad or your computer, like you're not really aware of what's going on. But having a host there to, chat with, like, it's amazing. And I'm hoping that people have gone away, not just being like, oh, that was cool, but like, ooh, I get to try stuff now. Or that was a really good way of thinking about, how to get better at becoming an illustrator or picking up clients or whatever.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. I bet there are a lot of takeaways. I got to rewatch yesterday's stream. It's going to be really weird watching myself talk, but I have to rewatch it just to like grasp all the various things that we talked about yesterday and today as well. Because when you're live, it's the experience for me is so surreal because you're so involved in that moment. You're looking at chat, you're talking to your guest, you're thinking about the piece and what comes to you and what it ignites in your creative process. And it's also surreal so many times that you have to rewatch the stuff. And it's beautiful that everything is documented. So we can always watch the replays. Hey, subtle dig.
Watch my replays. Yes.
Self-promotion. Yes. A little bit of that is all right. What are your thoughts about self-promoting? Do you feel like it's difficult for you to promote yourself sometimes, or have you ever had that in your career? Thinking that it's awkward. I don't know if I'm overdoing it or underselling myself. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I don't like these little white things actually. Undo all the way. Sorry about that. I have found it, sometimes it's really easy, sometimes it's really difficult. When you're not sure about your stuff, it's really difficult to say, guys, I have amazing stuff here. You're like, I don't know, actually. Like, can somebody tell me, is this good? Like I see that really, that really awesome stuff that other person is doing, but I don't know about my stuff. Like, can you tell me about mine? Like, where do I fit in the pecking order, And, sometimes you just got to be like, well, I like it, so somebody else must like it, And sometimes you fake it till you make it, or you just approach the people who have done similar stuff or have commissioned similar stuff in the past. Like, if I went to Victoria's Secret with my Doodleverse, they may not like that. Where exactly on the lingerie would you like to put the Doodleverse? Like, oh yeah, good point. So it's like, okay, I want to go for guys underwear because I'm a guy, so I know that I would love to wear what I'm drawing. And my topic there was flames and space monsters. And it ended up having sheeps and monkeys and rockets and stuff going on. It was really cool. So it's like, I believe in my art. So I'm a big fan of just self-promoting. Like, we do a lot of reels here, try to get stuff out on Instagram, on Twitter. And after a little while, like, you become numb to the naysayers or to no one saying anything. Like, that's the worst when you start. You're like, no one said anything. Like, it would be great if some people are like, I hate it. It's the worst. You then know that, okay, you've done something.
You don't have to do this.
There's something. It was really cool the other day on Twitter. It was like a milestone for me because Twitter's quite different from Instagram. And so some marketplace was promoting my work, saying, Rich's stuff is now on this marketplace. Go check it out. We've collected. It's selling like hotcakes. And some guy was like, that's actually awful. It's the worst stuff I've seen. I was like, wow, like, good on you for having the guts to do that. Like, I don't know if you're trolling or if you just are really being honest and authentic, but I was like, cool. At least I know that I'm producing stuff that's not just like generic and like, hey, I got this at, you know, some supermarket and I'm going to put on my wall like everybody else. It's like, you either like it or you don't like it. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. And it didn't affect me at all.
I love the way of thinking of it that way, that you don't like it, then that probably means that my artwork is unique. And I love that. That's a great way and a great perspective to look at things. And to add to your point about self-promotion, I think you're absolutely right that as someone who has probably never done reels on Instagram or whatever, and then you're starting out, you would probably not find as much engagement, considering the algorithm of these apps are constantly changing, be it Instagram, be it any other social media. And for you to find your niche, it does take a bit of time, but being persistent and not caring about if anyone's going to comment is probably the way to go if you really want to get into it and if you really care about putting yourself out there. But that also I was just saying that also depends on if you really want to do it and if that is going to find you work or if that's something that resonates with you. That obviously is different for everyone, so it's not mandatory for you to do it, but if you would like to do it, you got to be patient.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going the Instagram route and you want to like generate a following or an audience, like if you produce a cracker of a reel or a cracker of a post, and then there's nothing else that follows, it's like so what's really good is that you create stuff consistently so that once you've got to 50 or 100 posts or YouTube videos or whatever, when the algorithm goes, oh yeah, this guy's working really well, and people start watching, it's like, or looking or paying attention, you've got a bunch of content behind that, a bunch of awesome illustrations, a bunch of awesome logo work, video work, whatever, to back up that one thing that did capture people's attention. And so that's really important to just keep on pushing stuff out there. But like I was saying yesterday, you don't necessarily have to go the Instagram route, because you could just hop onto LinkedIn and say, hi, here's my awesome 2-piece portfolio that fits really well with what you're doing. Can I work with you? And you also got to kind of know what you're good at. So I've started to discover that it's like, I'm really good at one-on-one conversations, maybe 1 on 2 or 3 conversations, but not the best at like trying to manage a big social media presence or walking into a room full of people. I'm like, oh, I don't like this. So if I can just chat with one person and be like, okay, let me sell myself to you over coffee, bam, almost like a done deal the whole time. Like, I can have a very inspirational, high energetic meeting and get work like that, rather than being like, hi, Instagram, like, this is my stuff, like, check it out. But at the same time, sometimes Instagram is that kind of stuff. So when you approach your client person, they go have a look at your Instagram. And so they didn't find you on Instagram, but it just backs up what you're trying to say. So you might have like stuff with 2 likes and 5 likes and 10 likes. But if it's really good stuff, your guy is going to be like, cool, I'll hire you. Or if it does have a high engagement, you're like, I don't like it, but it seems like thousands of other people do. So cool. Yeah, let's give you a go. Something like that. So it just depends on your strategy, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. 100%. Wade also agrees. Wade says, yeah, shouting into the void and hoping for responses can take a toll. Definitely know your work and what's important to you.
Yeah. And also like find other opportunities. Like maybe 2 years ago, I declined to be published in an illustration annual journal or whatever, because I was like, I don't want illustration clients and doing classes. I'm a UX UI guy. I just do this for fun. Whereas now I'm like, yeah, I want to be included in that. I'll pay to be included in that because this is what I want to do now. And so, you know, you may include your work in something like that. You pay $300 or $1,000 or whatever. It might seem like a lot of money, but then you get your work in front of art directors and creative directors and not in front of the general public or all of your art friend buddies who are like on Instagram being like, your stuff's amazing. But all the creative directors and art directors are like, I don't have time to browse Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn and email.
Yeah, I love that.
Send me a letter, please.
Just like that, it's the 90-minute mark and we're almost, not almost, we are at the artist spotlight time. So while I love that you are diving deep into all your fun stories and experiences and showing us a deep insight into your process, I would also like to see the artist spotlight. So why don't we hop on over to the artist spotlight for today, hype up our creators, look at their work, and look at what we can get inspired from today.
Okay, guys, this is my work. Let's close my work. So you may have heard of this lady called Liunic. And let me just get this completely right.
I love their work. She is
a Indonesian illustrator based in Jakarta. Okay. Yeah. So let's go back to the homepage. This is just her playground.
Yeah.
And I really hope my internet is still working.
It is working. Yeah.
There we go. It's definitely working here, but it must be working. Yeah. So her stuff is abundantly colorful, and you might be like, oh, I see like some of your stuff in her stuff, or vice versa. Eyes, colors, lots of characters and texture. But it's not just like, oh, a digital painting or a digital illustration. She does stuff on ceramics. She animates stuff. She has her own clothing line and brand. It's called Liunic Clothings or Liunic on Things.
Liunic on Things, yeah.
Look at this. Like this kind of stuff is just amazing.
I love it. And the fact that everything's moving is brilliant. I love that it grabs your eye even when you just look at it and you're like, oh, that looks so cool. That is so quirky and whimsical, and just the colors are mind-blowing. Like I wouldn't have imagined wearing something like that. I mean, if I looked at it, I was like, oh, I want to wear that. And that kind of feeling is kind of rare. So I love it.
It's amazing. And it like you can see here, like it's handmade, it's hand cut. Yeah. There's like stitching in places. But it all just looks like her work, and it's all it feels handmade, hand designed, hand everything. Like her stuff is on everything. Like I want to do this. Like I feel inspired. Like she is prolific. Like who does animating, ceramics, carpets or rugs, murals, like, and then books and clothing and stickers. And she's recently done a collaboration with H&M clothing, so now like the whole world should know about Liunic. I mean, there's collage stuff or paper cut out stuff. There's
so you're saying
that's got like a different style.
We can actually get it from H&M. That's mind-blowing to me. I actually did.
My baby has a swimming costume made by the H&M one. And I'm like, look, Liunic, like this is my baby's butt and cute little baby body. Like she's going to a swimming lesson in your swimming costume. Like that's really cool.
That is really cool. I actually looked at the website and their journal tab, I think that's what it was, had very fun, quirky illustrations as well. I think it's in journal. Yeah. And there was this just chilling, just tripping dog that really that really spoke to me. And there was this acne, types of acne as well. It was it is mind blowing how they can really describe what someone else is feeling into illustrations, and then it's funny how you can relate to it sometimes. Yeah, this is the one. Just
Yeah.
chilling or just tripping. What is this?
And the thing is, like, she's using the same colors throughout her
Mm-hmm.
work, but
Yeah.
like this feels like quite a different style, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still her style. So
Yeah.
I love like the consistency, but then the variation at the same time. It's like, how are you doing this? So it's always fun. It's always fun. It's always bright. It's always like, yeah, this makes me feel happy.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's about, acne.
Exactly. Yeah. Just the fun element in it. Like, look at the eyes going to like a way that it's like thinking, like the character is thinking. I'm like, hmm.
Yeah.
And that is the feeling that really attracts. Like, the illustration may look very simple again, but you did not get to it in 20 minutes. And it's kind of like the editorial feel to these illustrations is what grabs the eye. I feel like that is really, really charming.
I mean, yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go through a couple of these
How did you
tabs here.
find their work?
I don't know exactly, but I remember
Mm-hmm.
seeing that she was posting or dropping an NFT collection. And I was like, ooh, cool. Let me go check it out. And then I checked out more of her work and more of her work and more of her work.
Yeah.
And she was an artist that I said, hey, your stuff is amazing. Like, look, I bought some stuff from you from H&M. I
Mm-hmm.
love your stuff. Like, you've inspired me. And she responded like
Yeah.
within a few minutes. And I'm like, that's really interesting. Like, how many like high profile artists out there would
Yeah.
be like, hi, less high profile artist with only a
Mm-hmm.
few hundred followers or whatever. Like, thank you so much for connecting with me. Like, I really love your
Yeah.
stuff as well. To take the time to do that, I was like, oh, you're a nice human.
You're
Like,
human.
and it comes out in
Yeah.
your work, and you're also
Yeah.
that, oh man, that's awesome.
I love
So
that
she's done,
personal connections
yeah.
really go a long way. And I love that even though you mentioned how their work is kind of similar when the eyes come into the picture, it still is very different because the stylization of the eyes and like it's very unique to their style, and it may lend itself to your style a little bit, but I can still tell the difference what's Liunic and what's a tap tap kaboom, you know.
Yeah. I've definitely been seeing more and more art while I've been in the NFT world. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people will share what they are thinking about when they see my stuff. And I'm like, that's a lot like my stuff. And I've never seen this person's stuff
Yeah.
before. And so
Yeah.
I can tell the difference, but I'm like, wow, like that's crazy, like the similarities. And so,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're looking at awesome stuff like this, it's like, okay, I really like this. I don't want to copy it, but I really like it. So I
Yeah.
think the trick is to be like, okay, what do I like about this? And where can I take it? Where can I make it my own? Where can I explore further?
Yeah.
I mean,
Don't just take all the elements from one artist, but like what do you really like about their work that resonated with you, and you looked at it the first glance, and what was that thing that sparked joy? I think
yeah.
that's what you want to look at. I love it. I
And
love
so,
the line work, the colors. It's so abundant, but also so cohesive and just very inclusive of all the colors. I love it.
like, I
I
mean,
really do.
I am a sucker for characters. I love
Mm-hmm.
Pictoplasma, the Pictoplasma conference, the books,
Yeah.
the magazines.
Mm-hmm.
So I just love anything with eyes.
Yeah.
It makes it, come alive, become human. So uh, my babe just got some new socks and she's got eyes on them. And I'm just like, those are the best socks ever. And I'm like, why don't they make adult socks like this,
Did I steal those?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, oopsie. This
Love
is the
it.
H&M
Mm-hmm.
collaboration. Like
Love that.
bags, there's
I
kids'
might have to check that
clothing.
out. Oh, wait. That's not adult clothing? Oh, no. My
Yeah,
plans are
it's mostly
ruined.
kids' clothing. I know, but I'm like, do you have adult? But she does. So that's when you
Mm-hmm.
go to the shop up here
Yeah.
and go check
Yeah,
out
that's a brilliant,
Liunic on
brilliant way.
things. And then
Love
her
it.
most recent one, I think, is a Cassetify collab. So just like
Mm-hmm.
tons of iPhone
Cases.
cases,
Mm-hmm.
AirPod cases, things like that. And again, it's
Ooh.
just like really colorful. Like put this on your phone and it
Yeah.
feels like it's been drawn on your cover. It doesn't really feel like
Yeah.
a cover. It's like, who drew on my phone? No?
Yeah.
But it's like, oh,
Love
who
it.
drew on my phone? But oh, I really like that. Like this. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, have
Kind of
those
looks
little
like stickers when you
characters.
look at it from a distance, but I love it. Yeah. That was the artist spotlight for today. And if you are watching this on replay or watching this on live, you can nominate yourself or someone you find inspiring and want to highlight their work into a future artist spotlight. We have a tab right above chat. You can click on it, go to the Google form, and put in all the details. But without further ado, let's go back and jump into our Fresco screen again. And let's look at where we were with our piece today and dive right back in. Oh, look at that. I did not remember this being this way, but I'm excited and just hyped to see more of it. We have about 20, not 20 minutes, about 20 minutes for the stream for today. So if you have any last minute pressing questions for Rich, make sure to put
Okay.
those in the chat as well.
Okay. So I'm feeling like this is almost near completion. There's been a lot of layers put on. There's a couple of places that are like a bit muddy. So I'm going to perhaps clear it up by using a vector brush or just darkening some areas. So I'm going to go back to my, what is this called? The copier bigger dark grain brush. Maybe just fill in some of these areas, the clouds and a couple of other places.
Becca in the chat says it looks like a photo of a mural wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does kind of, now that you say it, Becca.
I got really inspired when I went to Berlin, and they have these posters, and it's like you look at it from far away, you're like, oh, there's a poster, but as you come closer, it's like this thick of just like poster after poster after poster after poster, just like piled on top of each other. And I was like, that's kind of what I want my work to feel like. Like just there's something at the bottom, but then it just keeps on adding and adding and adding and adding. And this also speaks into like the age that we live in.
Yeah.
Like all the masters that have come before us, all the technological innovations that have enabled us to do this. Like the fact that I'm drawing on some piece of glass and it's being transmitted to my computer, which is then being transmitted to some place in the United States, which is then being transmitted to places around the world. It's like, how is this actually
How did
possible?
we get to this?
This is insane, you know? And you're telling me my stuff kind of looks like a mural wall, and I'm talking about how to make it look less digital. It's like, it's insane. So it's an ode, a nod to just like all the people that have come before. It's like we are standing on the shoulders of giants. We are in a crazy fortunate place to be in right now in the world. Like, I know there's a bunch of hardship in tons of places in the world. I know there's a war happening. For the people in the crypto industry, I know that, you know, things are not looking so good. It's a bear market, or people have lost a bunch of money. But it's like, guys, this is just a crazy time to be alive. I mean, we're talking about virtual reality and the metaverse. Like, this is like science fiction right here. It is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. You're right. And I think just doodling and like putting your stuff out there and having a creative outlet also really helps you sway away from what's happening in the world just for your mental peace. And I think that's also really powerful. And for us to be able to do that and have the ability to do that is also very fortunate. And I think that speaks a lot. I love it.
It's crazy how fortunate we are. You know, sometimes walking around my neighborhood or sitting on the couch, like doodling on my iPad, and I know that people are fighting for their lives, or they don't have food, or they don't have water. And I'm just like, this is just crazy. So
and even using
sorry
that
to bring the heavy there, guys. Cheap us.
Yeah, We do it all. I think it's
Man.
part and parcel of like the whole experience, and like that also lends itself to your work and who you are as a person and how you find. I mean, I am super inspired. I just have one illustration with like a bunch of eyes on it, but after today and yesterday's stream, I feel like I should do it more often and not really try to be more realistic with my stuff, because personally, I feel like I really struggle with that. And because I find myself struggling with like trying to replicate realistic stuff a lot, and I don't think I'm there yet 100%. I feel like sometimes I get lost with my style, but after these two streams, I am super inspired by just creating what I see without having to actually replicating the whole thing. So I feel
Yeah.
like this is definitely needed, and you're such an inspiration. I love that I got to host you. This is, like I mentioned, this is so surreal. I love it.
Man, I'm glad I inspired you, and I hope that I inspired some other people to not be perfect. Like, just play and
Absolutely.
experiment.
Hmm.
And when people kind of challenge me on that, like when it comes to art
Yeah.
and, having things look perfect,
Hmm.
I'm like, guys, if I wanted to make things look perfect, I would probably pick up a camera quicker than I would pick up a pencil. Like, I
Yeah.
personally, I used to draw in school, like
Hmm.
a long time ago, 20-ish years ago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 20, let's just say 20 years ago, 18, 20 years
Yeah.
ago. I
Yeah.
sound really old. It's like I used to spend time like drawing skulls and drawing self-portraits and stuff like that. It took a long time, and it still didn't look like me or the skull that I wanted to draw,
Hmm.
But if I just took a photo, like, there we go. That's what
Yeah.
it would look like. So I know there's value in portrait drawing and sketching and, getting your proportions right and stuff.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, I would prefer just to focus on the story and what I'm trying to say and color and evoking emotion rather than
Yeah.
getting things pixel perfect or proportionate perfect or whatever. And focus on having fun. So maybe if you do go to a portrait drawing class, you can
Yeah.
also spend a bunch of time just doodling and having fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do all of it as Rich does. Melissa in the chat agrees. Thank you for bringing the heavy and acknowledging it. And Wade also says, exactly. Staying positive can be hard, but acknowledging it keeps everything in perspective too. Yeah, love it. Chris is also inspired. Chris says, thank you. I really want to go play with Fresco now. Love it. Yeah, everyone in chat also agrees. And I love that you all took the time and spent it with us for the last two streams, because these have been an eye opener. Hey, get it? An eye opener?
Yeah, lots of ads, lots of ads. So how much time do I have left? I'd love to show you
We
the
have about
towers.
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes in the stream. The last 5 minutes will be a quick recap of what we did on day one and day two for anyone who's
Okay.
just watching this on replay. So we can reserve that for last minute notes or last minute thoughts. But we do have
Okay.
about a total of 10 minutes.
Okay, so let me try open Dropbox.
Mm-hmm.
Can I find Dropbox? If anyone sees it, please let me know. Search for
Dropbox.
Dropbox.
We're getting inside stuff. What? Sneak peeks
Oh,
only here
yeah.
on Adobe Live. What? I love it. I
Yeah.
love sneak peeks.
Okay, let's search for
You
Avium.
saw it here.
Turis Avium. Done. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
This is fresh. 11 hours ago.
can I see it? How do I do this? There we go. So this is Turum Avius. I don't speak Latin, but something like that. It basically means bird tower or the tower of birds.
Mm-hmm.
And so the story behind this is that once upon a time, there was this city, which was basically a city of valley or a valley city or tower valley. And it's really nice. It's like it's valley. But there were birds that flew around and pooped on all of the roofs and the turrets. And it just became known for the birds and the smell, and it was terrible and horrid. And so nobody could do anything about it. But one day the sorcerer came along, and what he did, he cursed the town and the birds as he breathed his last breath. And so the birds then got sucked into the towers, and there they no longer pooped but squawked and squabbled, and for forever that's where they've been. And so you may be thinking, this is a terrible trade-off for the city. But during the nighttime, when the moon rises and the sun goes down, all the birds disappear, and it is an unearthly silence.
That's
brilliant. And everybody sleeps peacefully, and they have really good dreams. And so at different times in the day, this NFT will show these different states: sunrise, daytime, sunset, and nighttime. And so this is the sunrise.
That is so brilliant. Like the first scene where you can actually see the whole story, and then as it transforms into the other colors, it's brilliant. I know we talked about this variation of like times of day yesterday, and it's so fascinating to see it now, because because the way that you described it yesterday is exactly what I imagined it. So awesome. It's brilliant. I love it.
So that was my second tower, which I still am trying to mint. And then the other one was called Primam.
So what's the platform that people can find these at or take a look at later?
It's called async.art, and there's a bunch of really cool stuff on async.art.
Nice.
So this was the first one, which is called Primam Turim, which means the first tower.
The first.
And so this is not so story based, but it's more like, hey, this tower was built on a bed of eyes.
Yeah.
But the curious thing is that when it gets dark and the moon comes up and the sun goes down, then the eyes all shut, and the birds, who are actually the same shape as these jellyfish type things, they change into jellyfish.
Love
or
that.
catfish or whatever they are, these creatures. And then the sun comes up again.
So I have a question. Do you redraw every single thing when you're changing the colors, or do you reuse the elements?
For these I reuse as much as I can. You don't have to, but it just makes it really nice when you're advertising what you're doing or what I've done, to be like, look, it fades in between these two, and some elements change. Sometimes there's some little clouds here. Like there's some little clouds there, but as you go to the nighttime, there's stars and there's some clouds up there. So some things change, but most of them stay the same, but then all the colors change. I
love it. Yeah, it's brilliant. I love that we get some insight into your NFT stuff that's not been released yet, but it's about that time. Sadly, it is the end of day 2 with Rich Armstrong here. I am really fortunate and happy and honored that I got to host you, and I love that you all in chat also were staying with us for these 2 days. This was the end of day 2. I love how this came out, Rich. What are your last minute thoughts about it?
So I love where it has gone. I think that I could create a collection where I explore this kind of style more and incorporate elements from the Doodleverse into it. For me, it's been a very cool experience because I've discovered a few more characters, like the horned cloud with the unicorn hair, and then these evil clouds with like the red eyes and the red tentacles, and the fact that they're black in color. So that was really cool. And then I just really like this as a piece. It's about A4 size, so I'm probably going to print it and put it up on my board just to be like, look, remember what you did here. Remember those like happy accidents and the things that you discovered.
I love that.
So I had a lot of fun. It feels like I could just talk and draw at the same time a lot easier than I could do an intentional Doodleverse piece, which is really fun.
Brilliant. Yeah, I love that. And this kind of ties in with like the thing that we spoke about yesterday, that this year is about authenticity to you. And I feel like this is really close to what I've gotten to know you as a person, and it's brilliant. I loved hosting you, and thank you so much for joining us for these 2 days. With that said, I will say bye to all of you all in the chat, and we'll say that stick around for the Illustrator Creative Challenge with Claudie from Print My Soul up next. Claudia is amazing. She's going to be showing us a ton of stuff in Adobe Illustrator, followed by Voodoo Val showing us graphic glow up. This week, you will learn how to create a surreal poster, which really ties in with today's theme. So make sure to stick around for all of the amazing stuff we have here at Adobe Live, only on the YouTube and the Behance channel. So make sure to stick around for that. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week and rest of your day as well. Thank you, Rich. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Cool.
Bye
Thank you
for
so much
now.
for hosting.
Absolutely.